Dobar dan, but I will stick to English, unfortunately. I think Dalibor did an excellent job in the morning when he was doing an introduction to this event, because he was talking about the threat landscape, how the threats are even more sophisticated, aggressive, and more common. And actually, it's not because we are not using security product. We are all of them deploying them, and we are following at least a partial or at least small part of best practices to use those technologies. But I would like what I would like to do with this presentation is to give you something that you can take home and think, what should I do as a first thing when I'm returning to my desk, how to implement something, and how to think once again how to improve the situation. So maybe in the next year I will be speaking in this conference, we will be seeing much better numbers, and maybe it will be a confirmation that we are at the beginning of some strategy that can help to improve the situation. So let's stop thinking not only about products, but let's start from the basics and start with some framework, some architecture, how to improve the security. Technology is everywhere. I think it was visible, and everybody can confirm it. And even the places where we don't expect, they are talking IP protocols, like ATM machines where we are collecting our money, utilities running their networks and controlling and monitoring their networks using SCADA protocols over IP. It's happening everywhere. Not always those systems are connected to the internet, but they are interconnected. There is a lot of benefit and flexibility behind it, but there is a lot of power. And when there is a power, there is motivation to get that power and use that power. So for sure, the number of threats that we are seeing, it's growing, but it's not only about there is more threats, they are more frequent, but they are more sophisticated, and they are well motivated, and there is a lot of money behind them. Also, being on the side of be a starting criminal in this area, you don't need that knowledge. Different systems, the price of the threats, even the zero-day attacks, it's something that you can buy, and you don't need to stick necessarily only to zero-day attacks. There are special services to help you to get a kit of exploits, exploiting the list of known vulnerabilities, and to target your potential victim really easily. So there is a really easy customer experience to start to be a cyber criminal, and also there is a really easy user experience to become a victim, because it's just a matter of driving to the right page that is able to scan the weak spots of your browser, of your plugins in the browser, and of your system. And you have seen in the morning that really everyone is a target. It's not only about targeting attacks where there is some specific information or specific power, but there is a huge value behind each PC to use it as a part of the attack, to collect some information that in future might be useful, to get a huge computing power, a huge amount of connectivity and additional resources that really every PC represents. So IT is evolving. There is a lot of new movements that we see. Everyone is talking about things like cloud, whatever it means. Definitely, it's a new trend, and it means that we are getting a lot of benefits from that, a lot of flexibility to run our IT. On the other hand, we are partially losing a lot of control that we had in early days. It's the same with mobile. It's great to be able to access our data, our applications while being mobile from new types of devices, but there is a lot of challenges related, and really what we had before, the clear control and clear perimeter is slowly disappearing. So the question is really how to protect something that is becoming that complex, and how to make it in manageable way, even in that large scale, being maybe quite large enterprise or being a large government organization maybe. So organizations are asking, and they are looking for something, for some advice, to stop implementing some solution. They are really just a point solution. So I have a pain and I'm just putting a sticker over that pain to solve it. But to start from the beginning, to start with some architecture that finally helps you to be much more secure than in the beginning. So Checkpoint is coming with something that we have summarized into a security blueprint, kind of a document that was not written by marketing guys. It's something that was designed by network and security architects to help you to start to somehow analyze what is the current state of your security and how to improve it in some future iteration. So it's a 3-layer architecture that is designed something that you can use today to be prepared even for the threats that are coming. So there are 3 layers: enforcement layer, control layer, and the management layer of that architecture. And I will talk about each of the layers in more detail now. Starting from enforcement layer, which is something that is really answer to your question, where should I be running the security? What is the point that can help me to put some rules, but not only rules that your organization is thinking about in terms of access control, but where to put some protections that can help you to protect you against some threats and even some more sophisticated threats, maybe even against unknown threats that we are seeing today. So it's something that may be executed not only where you would expect, like network security gateways, but network security gateways that are virtualized to give you more flexibility and scalability. It's also important to think about what's happening on the endpoints of users. And it's something that does well fit together with the trends that we are seeing now. So mobile security and the cloud security is not something that would be aside from that. So it's a place where you are able to execute the protections. I was talking about following some basics. Even the incidents in like Stuxnet in Iran that maybe probably everyone in this room is at least partially aware of, and we can judge only based on some public information that we have learned from press. If they would follow some basic best practices, maybe the situation would be much better for them. And maybe it would be a case that the attackers would have much less to play with, and it would be much more difficult for them. Part of that is about building some boundaries. It's about segmentation. And segment doesn't necessarily mean a segment in networking terms, but it means something where we can isolate the values with same level of classification. I will talk about it in more detail. So, in the past, it was easy. It was a small network connected to the internet, and boundary was clear. It was the perimeter firewall. With all the mobile, cloud, the boundaries are disappearing. And really, if you should bring something home with you, it's this statement that is very true, and it's that segmentation is new perimeter. And we need to find new places and new strategies where to run, where to implement the security. Of course, sometimes we are forgetting about those security basics on purpose. We find it too difficult to do, we find it too expensive to do, but if we are using the latest technologies, it may be something that is affordable, that is easy to manage and easy to do. So Checkpoint summarized it in 4 steps. I will probably not go in details with them. I will, at the end of the presentation, I will point you about to the document that is describing this architecture. But those steps are about identifying those basic, smallest pieces of assets like computers, networks, or even data that are then the atomic segment with the same classification, same meaning from the security point of view. Of course, to make it more manageable, we can group those atomic segments into bigger groups that are sharing following common attributes, and that can be easily protected with some common rules that makes it much more scalable and easier to manage. And then it's about consolidating the flows, security features on one place that makes it less expensive and easier to manage. And not always those components are at some single place. So we need to think about right implementation of trusted channel. And VPN is definitely good example of trusted channel. But even with VPNs connecting the remote data center with the local building, sometimes we are doing a lot of mistakes. not doing the really end-to-end security, and we need to rethink about even the design of those trusted channels. So just a quick example, specific servers in the finance department of the company might be that atomic segment. Some public services together, they may be sharing common attributes, so in fact they are a group of segments already, so we can implement some common security for them. And we can consolidate different pieces of security and security functions together to make it more affordable, easier to implement the security. So this was more about getting back to the best practices, thinking about segmentation is my new perimeter, and how I should segment and why I should run security. Control layer is about what security should I be running in those places. So it's a layer that is responsible for generating protections, and sometimes the threat landscape is very dynamic. We are able to collect an intelligence that we can improve so the cycle can be automated. Attackers, they are automating. They are targeting you with a lot of clever tools. So we, on the security side, we need to automate as well. We need to be more flexible, adaptable. So the control layer is the way how Checkpoint or some other solutions that can be complementary to it can help. We have two parts. Some of the protection is something that is coming from the knowledge and needs of your organization. This is about the access control, and I have nice comparison of access control and the other part that is called threat prevention. Threat prevention is something that is not unique rule set to your organization. It's something that is unique to that is common for every organization in the world, and it has even a single rule, and the rule is saying stop the bad guys or stop the malicious traffic inside my infrastructure. I will talk about that in more detail. So access control. Early days, when access control, in fact, in networks, access control equals firewalls. These days, we are thinking access control equals next generation firewalls because it's a language of business. We are building networks to run our businesses, to provide some services. We are not building them because of IP addresses and protocols and ports. So we need to think and express the access control policies in the objects like users or user groups, applications that are those users using, and data that they are processing using those applications. So this is something that is even possible today, and I will give you some live examples later in the presentation. And we shouldn't put data on site because sometimes even a single document may be a smallest segment in my security architecture, and we have technologies like document security that can protect and set the rules from the early moment when the document is created. So we can set who is the one that is able to read the document, who is able to change it, and how the document should be shared inside or even with external recipients outside your own organization. So next generation firewalls are really the technology that is talking about connecting users or groups of users, like the whole finance department of your organization, with specific applications, and we can even go deeper and understand what is the context, what is the operation, and what is the data that we are maybe sending over the network or that we are accessing in some application. Well, all the organizations are using firewalls, but still we are not secure only just with firewalls. So that is the other part. How to protect against malicious requests, malicious content, how to protect against those bad guys, if you want to call them like that. So there are multiple layers. It's very similar, something that we have seen in the second presentation. So there are some technologies that can really work at the beginning because we know how that attack will look like. We have some signature behind the detection mechanisms. And these mechanisms may be quite simple. So IPS, intrusion prevention systems, they are definitely representing our way how you can stop malicious operations, malicious traffic over your network. Let's imagine a public web server. Public web server presentation of your organization, it's something that if it would be only behind firewall is doing a good job to say, nobody on the internet is able to manage my web server using SSH or terminal services. On the other hand, it's also saying that any IP address on the internet is able to access your web presentation. So this is where the job of firewall is over, and you need some additional mechanisms like intrusion prevention system, web application firewalls that are protecting and that are deciding, is this is definitely authorized based on the firewall policy, but is it malicious request or is it legal request that is coming to my web server? So it's also a layer that can provide you kind of virtual patching. There is a huge time window when some vulnerability is documented, maybe it's exploited, and then where the vendor is providing you a fix. And sometimes the biggest and the biggest challenge in that cycle is you have the fix, but you don't have the conditions or the ways how to deliver the fix to the system. So maybe it's an application that via upgrading the version of Java would be broken. So you are even on purpose, you are sticking to some vulnerable older version of that thing. So this is where IPS can help as well. Antivirus is kind of similar technology. It's also preventive, but it's something that is more focusing on the content. So this is looking at the network into the request. This is more looking into the content like documents and executables exchange in your environment. There is a new part of the technology that Checkpoint is talking, calling antibot. Antibot is mainly about the post-infection phase. Sometimes we even don't know that we were infected. Antivirus that was in place on endpoints was bypassed, as you have seen in previous presentations. So we need to look for some additional side effects. Fortunately, these sophisticated malwares, to be useful, they need to communicate over the network. So they need to connect to something that is called command and control center. And this communication is happening through your firewall gateway. So if the firewall gateway will be clever enough to recognize the communication patterns that malwares are using, we would be able to tell your IT guys, this is the PC that is already infected because it's trying to contact the command and control center. Maybe even in later phase, it was trying to do some malicious activity like attacking the other organization, self-replicating yourself or something like that. So that even that post-infection technology can help you to give you an information that something wrong is happening and you need to act and fix the situation. There is a huge topic, very hot these days. It's about zero-day attacks. Sometimes it might be a subject also to randomization of existing attacks. Being a so-called company delivering people with exploit kits to help them to attack the other organizations, one of the services that you are providing is to randomize how the attack, how the payload is encoded. Simply changing one piece of information in the header of exe file is creating a file with a new signature. Adding a null character at the end of PDF file, technically from the point of some hash, some checksum, it's a new file. But it's still carrying the old malicious payload. So we need to find a way how to, instead of looking for signatures, how to look for the behavior of malware, as it was said in the previous presentation. Checkpoint, being a network security company, deploying on the not only on endpoints but also on security gateways, we have a possibility to inspect the traffic, take the traffic into our threat emulation technology that might be running in Checkpoint Cloud or in a local private appliances next to your security gateway, and we are able to look for the side effects of opening the file. So, for example, receiving a CV from some potential employees, the Mr. Director, maybe an HR person, it's hard for her to decide that the file it's a real CV or it's a malware, it's an attempt to do malware infection. So this is why we have the threat emulation technology to look for some unusual behavior, creating new files in suspicious directories, running those files as a new processes. If those files are finally communicating over the network, this is something that shouldn't be happening at opening of a PDF file. So this is something that we for sure know that it's a pattern, that it's a behavior of malware, and we are able to document and share it and stop it. So what is needed for that? Threat prevention, it's something that is generating and improving the protections in real time. This is why Checkpoint is talking about two separate layers. Somewhere we are running it, and some intelligence in the control layer that's creating and improving the protections for you. So there is definitely, if you want to succeed, you need some intelligence that cannot be only something coming from your own organization. So we are taking external sources. As usual, it would be happening with standard malware research. But we are also taking indicators, information about security events that are happening in Checkpoint sensor net, so the gateways that are monitoring the behavior of threats on the internet, but also customer gateways that are volunteering with sending anonymous attack and malware data that can be used later to improve the security mechanism. So if everybody is fighting alone, it would be very hard to progress. Fighting together, having a collaboration, and not to having just one-way direction of sending signatures to customers, but to have that collaboration process started, we are able to succeed. There is much better probability to succeed than before. I told you that control layer is based on two parts, access control and threat prevention. I think it's a good moment to think what are the differences between them. Access control is something that is unique for your organization, and the goal of access control is to define who is authorized. And of course, only your organization knows who is authorized and who is not, based on the business processes. People in finance probably have some special needs and special requirements to talk to your SAP systems. On the other hand, some other employee on different position has completely different needs. So we are able to capture his access role and put it into something that is defining the rules. So it's based on the knowledge of your organization. Threat prevention is something that is tricky to do alone, and you are depending on trusted third party with necessary research. So it's organization neutral policy, and the goal is define what is malicious. You probably don't have those malware experts, and you cannot do it alone with one, or even with team of 5 guys. You cannot define it well. You need to get a much larger infrastructure for that. So the knowledge is not obtained from your organization. It's obtained for how we can call it cloud or update service of that intelligent that for example Checkpoint is providing. This is important. Threat prevention is about modeling the threat behavior. So it's not only about threat captured in a signature, but this sentence is exactly pointing to that threat emulation technology. By the way, Checkpoint is doing some statistics regarding the malware, and we see that it's really getting much, much worse. Last year, we are releasing a security report that is called 2013. Actually, it's based on the 2012 data. So that host was the usual customer from the survey. The host was connecting or access to malicious to website with malicious content was happening almost every half an hour. This or last year, 2013, it was happening already every minute. So like it's more frequent and it's more intense than it ever was. Then about actual downloads of malware, they are happening every 10 minutes, and we see that more than half of organizations are really experiencing that. So this is something that where it's documented that is happening, and this is the start of the infection, and maybe even starting some more sophisticated, targeted, and hidden incident inside your organization. Almost half of those organizations, we have seen that they have had not only one bot, but seven or more samples incidents inside the network. So it's something that is really happening in real organization, whatever size, whatever industry. It's something that is independent because because how it's powered, how it's triggered. Once the botnet is already once the bot is already inside the customer network, communication may be quite often. So it's happening every 3 minutes. Fortunately, having a technology like Antibot, it's something where we can close this channel and make that malware useless and make sure that we are aware of it to be able to re-image the machine, to remove that malware infection. So something that is very related, so the threat prevention wouldn't be efficient without efficient access control. So Once that infection is inside the organization, it doesn't mean that it has easy life. There is already a firewall between them and the command and control center on the internet. On the other hand, there are many ways how to bypass, and we see that a lot of organizations still don't have efficient tools like application control to stop applications like anonymizers. So there is a list of high-risk applications. One of them is anonymizers that are using a channel that is allowed through your firewall and technically is hiding the traffic inside a channel, and it's bypassing any policy that you have tried to implement for your users. It's really important to understand that Tor and other tools like UltraServe and maybe even the simple tools using the web infrastructure, they are not for guys, not only for guys who is said that he cannot update his Facebook profile, but it's also a very nice channel for the malware to be able to bypass your security policies. Management layer. I think there is a key component of management layer, and it's about visibility. You can implement a lot of security. You can generate millions of logs, but without having the right tools that will give it into the right context, into right meaning, giving the priority on top of the data, you are still lost. So definitely visibility is important, and I will better show how it looks like in Checkpoint products. Modularity is about capability to split the responsibility of security to the hands of right guys. In large organizations, sometimes you need to segregate the duties of security management to different people. So let's imagine that your organization is running 5 different groups of application servers. Sometimes it would be very practical to make those security policies smaller and to share the load between the guys and to share how you are implementing the policy. And also the security may be modular, so implementing and consolidating a lot of security functionality. I told you that you can be successful only with the multi-layer security. So those multiple layers, there is a good chance that the guy that is responsible for IPS incident is a very different guy who is responsible for setting and implementing firewall access policies or even data security decisions. So it's important that the management architecture is ready for that. Automation, we see that people are getting a lot of flexibility and freedom thanks to cloud implementation or virtualization of servers, and security shouldn't be aside. It's already happening with servers. That a lot of organizations are introducing this movement in networks. So this architecture, in fact, that is called software-defined protection. So it's a security layer of that architecture. But a lot of networking vendors are talking to you these days about software-defined networks, which is basically about that flexibility that you started to have with the servers, to have it also in the networking. So security can easily be part of it, and we have the right APIs and web services to make sure that this is really something that the organization are able to implement. So in action, segmentation. So you can work on the level of single user. Most probably you will work with the whole group of users. Even the guest is something that has a security meaning in your organization. You definitely work with some segments and defining the rules for the communication between the segments. And trusted channel, they may be easily implemented and understood as technologies like VPNs. And this is that install on column, magic column is telling you where is this rule deployed. Even if I'm a huge organization, I can do it from single place and make sure that the policy is happening on the right places with the right knowledge and right rules. In access control, we are defining the relation between users, applications. So it's not anymore about IP addresses and ports. We have grown up to have something that is talking the business language, not the low-level technical language of bits and bytes. Threat prevention policies, they might be pretty easy. They might be a gateway that is just telling you, I have all those essential threat prevention security layers, including antivirus, antibot, threat emulation, IPS enabled, and I just need to know that it's applied in the right way and it's in the prevent mode. I was telling that threat prevention is something common to every organization. There is also one common complaint or something that the organization would like to avoid, and it's about false positives. by definition, some of the protection mechanisms, maybe they are not that accurate, or maybe the customer's environment has exactly that anomaly that is used to detect and notify about some kind of suspicious type of traffic. So when we know that that protection mechanism has a lower confidence regarding false positives, maybe for those low confidence things, maybe we can keep it in the detect mode and do the automatic prevention for all the mechanisms that are critical and where we have high confidence and where we know that the performance impact is acceptable. This is the high-level view, something that easily might be on the screen in some network operation center of a huge infrastructure, not only customer, but maybe some security incident center of a country. But also it's something that in very small scale you can use in your own organization, even with single checkpoint gateway, to find out when you are returning to your desk next morning, what were the incidents. It's something that is giving you a meaning and priority behind those security incidents. So it's called smart event. And then you can act on those specific incidents, and you know who was the guy involved in some bot incidents, or if somebody is trying to bypass the authentication mechanisms of let's say, identity awareness inside the security gateways. So it's an architecture, it's a high-level context, so it's something that you can even neutral on the vendors that they are using. You can start thinking to do an inventory and future redesign of your security architecture to improve the situation. You can put the best products that might be behind that architecture inside inside. It's answer to your basic questions, where should I run the security, what kind of security is needed. So definitely think about adopting that. If you are interested in more details, the summary of my presentation in a 5 minutes YouTube video, you will find it on that page. But also you find very useful documents that can be good for your network security department guys. Something that also can work easily as a management summary. What are the trends in security and how to start with this architecture. So what should be my message to you? What should you bring home? Something that is not written in the slide. Think once again about your architecture, returning to some best practices, some basics. Sometimes forgetting those basics may be even more efficient than only investing huge amount of money into some security technology. We are seeing that much more unknown malware will be spreading this year. It already started in 2013. So we know that firewalls, antivirus, the traditional best practices are not enough anymore, and you need to innovate. So you need to return to the basic on one side, and you need to innovate on the other side to follow with the technologies like malware sandboxing to really model and find out the behavior of that threat of that malware. So the exposure is increased, so everyone is the target, and sometimes having a good perimeter solution is not enough. You've seen it in previous presentation, example of the banks. Really, the users, they are the weak spot, the endpoints are the weak spot. So once you close the two big vectors of malware infection, which is web and email, you still need to be aware that something is happening and to have to close maybe the third one. Like USB flash, it's actually a floppy of these days, and it may be easily used to bypass your perimeter. So you need to have a full picture and a full coverage. And even if you miss something, there is a good chance that additional technologies like post-infection antibot technology can help you to eliminate the threat of sophisticated malware. Don't look only at antivirus, anti-malware products. Really think about implementing right policies and start moving your firewalls from IP addresses and ports into something that is more powerful, closer to your business. Risky applications like anonymizers, remote control, peer-to-peer file sharing, all those things that are really happening in every organization in the world, but many organizations don't know that is happening and don't have the tools to stop and control it. So application control is is the key. And data prevention or information protection should be part of the strategy. There was not enough space to put it into that presentation, but definitely there is a solution for that on multiple sides, both endpoint with the document security, that is really preventive technology, or prevention of the incidents on the firewalls where the data loss prevention and able to express what the data is going through my firewall, it should be a natural capability of current firewall security gateways. So thank you very much for your attention. I think there is not enough time for questions. Is there someone who would like to ask questions related to checkpoint architecture? So I'll be around the whole day, so I hope we will have a chance to talk to you, and I will be happy to answer your question that way. Thank you.